Hello, welcome to this Carbon Removal Challenge webinar. We are joined by our friends at Carbon Unbound. We are in Dubai for COP28. You could do a quick look at the Dubai skyline behind us, and I don't know if that's big Ferris wheel. Do you know what it's called? I've been calling it
I can't remember what it's called, but it also doesn't work.
It doesn't turn.
No, it doesn't turn. So it's turned into a nice display.
It is. They've got beautiful lights on it, though.
Yes.
I've been calling it the Dubai Eye.
Because we don't have a name.
It's like the London Eye, exactly. Or the Dubai. Anyway, so enough about Dubai and COP28. We are very excited. Yeah, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Let us know if you are a participant, if you're someone who's interested in being part of the challenge, if you're interested in being a mentor or a judge, if you're interested in sponsoring or partners, all those things are welcome. But we're going to start off the session with quick info about the Carbon Removal Challenge itself. Then we're going to have a nice chat about the Carbon Unbound Conference, which is going to be our venue hosts for the finals for the Carbon Removal Challenge this year. Really excellent opportunity for our finalists. And then we're going to have a Q&A for people in the audience to ask us questions about Carbon Unbound, about the Carbon Removal Challenge, and hopefully we can help people with any questions they might have. So without further ado, we're going to start our presentations with the Carbon Removal Challenge presented by Peter and Erica Reinhardt, our presenting sponsors. Just a quick note, I will get into this a little bit more later, but we are going to have another webinar next week with Peter Reinhardt talking about how he got into a position to be one of the leaders in the carbon removal industry, and I think that's going to be really helpful and inspirational to our students. But for now, let's talk a little bit about the Carbon Removal Challenge. So first, we would like to thank our sponsors, Peter and Erica Reinhardt. Thank them again. They're our presenting sponsors. Carbon Unbound, our venue sponsors, NYU Alliance for Public Interest Technology, Activate, and NYU Tisch School of the Arts. If you're interested in learning more about our sponsors, please visit our website, which you will find in the chat, and learn more about these awesome organizations that have helped make the Carbon Removal Challenge possible and make it possible for us to have this awesome place and the ability to bring students to New York for the final showcase. We'd also like to thank our partners. A lot of awesome organizations have helped us spread the word and get more students involved in the challenge. So please check them out on our website as well. I'd also like to thank some of the rest of the team for the Carbon Removal Challenge, my co-chair, Thushara Elizabeth Tom, who I think cannot be joining us tonight, but Duncan McDow is here with us, our Director of Media for the Carbon Removal Challenge. Duncan, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Thank you all for being with us. As Director of Media, my job is to help the good works of the participants radiate far beyond the challenge. I was with Challenge in its first iteration last year, and I can testify it's truly an exciting opportunity. So yeah, I hope you all sign up. It's a great event. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah, and Duncan made an awesome video about the 2023 Carbon Removal Challenge. So please check that out on our website, or I think Duncan's going to post that into the chat shortly. I'd also like to introduce our special guest today, Chantal Spit from Carbon Unbound. She is the Director of Programming. Is that the correct title?
Head of production.
Head of production.
The production related to the program of the event. So it's not like IT program. It's really related to event production. Yes.
Event production. Yes, that's what I said the whole time, clearly. But Chantal is going to be telling us later on about Carbon Unbound and why it's such an amazing event and why it's going to be so awesome for our finalists to be a part of it. But in the meantime, we want to point out how successful this is. Our second year of the Carbon Removal Challenge. Our first year we were very proud of. We felt like it was very successful. We had 28 teams from 10 different countries, almost 160 students. We got almost every continent except for South America where people live. We also didn't get Antarctica, but we don't really expect to get many penguins in this competition, but so hopefully there's someone on this call right now from South America who's putting together a team so we can get them as well this year. So please check out this URL, the openaircollective.cc 2023 CRC. That's going to be, we're going to learn more about last year's carbon removal challenge. But just to give a quick overview of the challenge, it is a global initiative for students all around the world to come up with new carbon removal solutions, and that can take many forms. It doesn't have to be just engineering solutions, chemistry solutions. They could be legislative solutions. They could be social impact. Really, we're looking for a wide variety. We're looking to get as many people involved as possible. You're going to build and design those solutions. Some of these things are going to be implemented. Some of them are just going to be designs. It's up to you what you want to submit. The more complete it is, the more proof it is that it will work, probably the better we'll do in our judging. But we want to have as many of you as possible coming up with things that can really change the game for carbon removal. And then the finalists will get to come to Carbon Unbound in New York in May 2024. We are going to provide travel stipends to get people to New York for up to 4 members of the team. We're going to provide lodging for up to 4 members of the team. And per diems, swag, all that good stuff. So it's an awesome way to get to come see New York and to get to see an awesome conference and present at that awesome conference for industry leaders. So which you'll learn more about in the second half of this webinar. Yeah, so I just talked about some of these prizes. You're going to have these per diems. You're going to get passes to Carbon Unbound. So not only is the whole team going to go to Carbon Unbound for the opening night ceremony and get to present and be sort of the crown jewel of that opening night, but also you're going to get 2 passes per day to Carbon Unbound to attend and see these talks and see these industry leaders talking about what's going on in the industry, and maybe find some funding, maybe find some mentorship, maybe find some jobs, really ways to help people advance in the carbon removal industry. We also are producing a bunch of educational content. So you're obviously here at this webinar today. We already had a webinar earlier with RMI and Frontier. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out on the Carbon Removal Challenge website or on OpenAir's YouTube channel. We're going to be producing these events throughout the rest of the challenge, up and through the final showcase. These is a look back at some of the awesome content that we put together for last year's carbon removal challenge. We also have another webinar coming up next week with Peter Reinhardt that I mentioned before. Then we'll be sharing that information later in the presentation today. So the important key dates that I really want you to focus on right now is this December 15th date. We are actually announcing right now, live on this webinar, that we are pushing back the application date to January 8th. So you're going to have a little bit more time to get those applications in. All you need to apply for the Carbon Removal Challenge is a team, an academic sponsor, so somebody from your home school who's going to sign off on your results, and that's it. Ideally, you have some idea of what you want to do, but it's not required at this point. All that's really required of you is to get together a team, and teams could be 1 person. We recommend teams being somewhere between 2 and 8 people, but it's up to you how many people you want to have on your team. Just get those applications in for the Carbon Removal Challenge. If you don't get them in by the deadline, you cannot participate. So please get those in before the applications close. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. There's a form on our website where you can ask questions about participating, or you can ask them in the Q&A section later. But get those applications in now. The next date that's important is this March 4th deadline. That's going to be when you're actually submitting your results. So the first deadline is just saying you're interested in being part of this challenge. The second deadline is when you actually submit what it is that you want to participate in the challenge with, what your results are of your work. So you can start on that right now. You don't have to wait for the applications to close. You can apply today, you'll be accepted immediately, and then you can start working right away. Or if you have something you've already been working on, that's also permissible for you to submit that. It doesn't have to be something that you're starting afresh now. It can be any work that students are working on as part of their academic career. So as I mentioned, teams can have any number of members. You can be grads or undergrads. It goes all the way from undergrad up to postdoc if you want to be part of this challenge. You have to have a carbon removal solution, but it doesn't have to be a specific engineering solution. It could be a device, policy, any approach that can have an impact. Each team must have 1 faculty, or staff advisor who co-signs on their final submission. Our judges are going to judge your submission based on its potential impact, originality, and overall quality. Each team is required to submit a 10-page white paper and a letter of support from their academic advisor. You will be allowed to submit additional materials, but it's not required. We will encourage our judges to look at those additional materials as well, but you'll primarily be judged on that white paper and that letter of support from your academic advisor. Teams are encouraged but not required to have your solutions be open source. We're going to have a webinar in the coming months from the Open Source Hardware Association that's going to sort of advise on the benefits of open sourcing your solution and the possibilities that are able or open to you by doing that. And we are going to have an OpenAir booth at the Open Hardware Summit in April of 2024. So that's another opportunity for you to get exposure if you open hardware your solutions or open source your solutions. We also are working with Frontier. They have something called a carbon removal knowledge gaps database, which you can find links to on our website. And basically it is they polled industry experts in carbon removal and found the things and areas that need the most focus in carbon removal. So we are working with them to sort of help you have ideas of what might need focus on in carbon removal, what could really move the needle if you answer some of these questions. And then it is optional to include that as part of your final submission. If you do choose to submit that as part of your final solution, one finalist will be named Best Knowledge Gap Response as one of the awards at the final showcase. So yeah, register for the challenge now. Go to our website, check out our LinkedIn. If you have more questions, feel free to email me or fill out that form on our website. This is my email address right here. Yeah, and I think that is it for my portion. So I'm going to turn it over to Chantal to talk about Carbon Unbound. So let us share your slides.
Yes, and while you're doing that, I just wanted to highlight to everybody, look at the video from the teams from last year, which is now the chat box, right? Because I looked at it earlier today and I thought it was just really nice to see what the teams have been working on and what they've gotten out of the challenge. So I think that's really motivational if you guys have a look at that. Okay, so Carbon Unbound, yes. So Carbon Unbound is an organization that does leadership summits. Here we go, sorry. Leadership summits basically focused on carbon removal only. So we really bring the whole, basically bring all the stakeholders together. It's quite a new organization as such. Well, the whole carbon removal space obviously quite new, but Carbon Unbound they had their first conference earlier this year in May in New York. So that was the first one that we held, which was a big success. And that led into the second event in Europe in London, which was in October this year. So now we're basically full steam ahead with the next event, which is obviously in May, following the challenge on the 21st of May. So our event will be on the 22nd and the 23rd. Yeah, so what will we do? We basically, as mentioned, we focus on removal, and it's really the mission for us is to achieve this gigantic scale to remove carbon removed from the atmosphere. And obviously, we are not able to do that as such as an organization. We do that with all these stakeholders within the removal space. So we're really talking about, tech companies, startups, financial people, NGOs, obviously politicians for regulation. So basically everybody that's interested in space, and it is actually something we should all be interested in, also as individuals, because we basically need to do this. Otherwise we already have a problem, but it will even be bigger. So we are moving to deliver this monumental scale, and therefore we need to basically move and accelerate CDR innovation, and also hand in hand with that, obviously, investment. And we're trying to do that through collaboration and also education. And I think there again, that's where all you students come in with fantastic new ideas. And then we also basically provide really a platform for all these stakeholders to come together. So they can also talk together, obviously form alliances, again, making the whole CDR a more important, I think, sector also for the outside that is not very familiar yet with the removal space, because I think there's a lot of people that don't really know a lot about removal. So there's really, like, we're trying to basically get the whole food chain together. So the last two events, so for each event, especially London, we reached 400 attendees. The first event was a little bit less, but I think also because we had no idea how many people would be interested in attending it. We had a lot of people from C-level, so higher, very much leadership people in our event. There were 4 different announcements being made that were new to basically the industry. I will highlight a few in a bit. As mentioned, our events, they were very popular, and we were sold out actually already quite a few weeks or 6 weeks beforehand. So that's obviously fantastic for us that it's so popular. We had 250 companies that all play a role in CDR together, obviously focus on networking events. And with that networking as well, we have an event app that was really used by 95% of the audience also to basically put one-on-one meetings. Obviously the agenda's there, all the information you want, but there's a lot of different stuff going on there. There's a tech showcase, there's fire chats, basically campfire chats. So all of that information is available on the app. And just to move back to the methodologies that we had, like announcements. So we had, for example, Covalent that announced that they have a new platform for forward carbon credits or removals that is basically at least guarantees like 1,000-year permanence. Then we had Drax together with Stockholm Exergy that announced a methodology to relate to BECCS, so to bioenergy, carbon capture and storage. And Isometric as well, very exciting. They're the first basically independent and transparent registry that basically is for durable carbon credits. So, and then we hope that next year we already got quite a few announcements that they will be made to in May. So it's very exciting. Things are moving forward. Then we have the people that basically are attending, but also are speaking, so are sharing their experience with us. This obviously is a pie that gives a representation of where the different areas they come from. I'm just going to highlight a few for you. So we had in New York last year, Noah Dyke, who is the Deputy State Secretary. Am I saying that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
That is right. So with the Department of Energy, so he gave a keynote speech. We had people from startups, Maggie Hall and Stephen Milburn. Then we had Sarah Beth Brockney, who works as in NASDAQ and is currently head of climate strategies. Probably a few of you will be aware or know Shopify. Shopify is obviously a company that really is moving towards net zero by 2050 and really invest heavily also via the Sustainable Fund towards carbon removal. And then obviously investment companies, very important because they are supporting the technology. So basically also the ones that will help you with all your ideas once they are out there. And then we have also equally important, rest of industry. And these can be associations, but also media. So everybody with an important role. And Ben Rubin is also a strong supporter and quite a very well-known person in the space, I would say. So what's new for 2024? Well, we're hoping to extend a little bit more so that we can basically make sure that we have more people together, although we still like to keep it intimate enough. So we're hoping to get 400 plus stakeholders together. Then we have an advisory board that's come together. So there's 40 plus members in this advisory board, and they really are basically invaluable for us because they are the voices for the conference. So they will assist us with putting really a program together that works, that's made for the stakeholders and by the stakeholders. Then we're going to have obviously a lot of media partnerships and work together, like OpenAir, obviously we're working together with. And then we have also some other companies, marketing companies, they're actually mentioned below, like Price, Air Miners, Activate, that also are helping us making this event as successful as possible. Then regarding the agenda, well, just a few highlights. There is, we have noticed that there's strong demand for basically for buyers. Obviously, finance is a big topic. Like how are we gonna get investment up for all the tech solutions that are there? How are we gonna get people to start buying the removal carbon credits? How are we making sure that that it's more trustworthy? Because unfortunately, there has been obviously a little bit of negative press. So we need to make sure that there's a good system, what they call MRV, so measurement results verification. So we'll spend attention on that. But not in the least, also on all the different solutions that are still out there. So nature-based solutions and the latest updates and what is new, as well as obviously the technology solutions. And that's also what we're spending time on with Kickstarters that can represent some of the technology they've obviously put together, and also again with fire chats on the side. So it's really a combination of what's happening in all this space and who are all the key actors. Yeah, and who knows what might happen. There might even be a big announcement before May. So we'll see. But so that's in brief as well the agenda. So why are we collaborating with OpenAir? Well, actually, because you guys are all the brains to come up with new technology that is so needed. And I think as well, right, we need to hear from you. We need to hear what you need to get that done. And we need to make sure that you are being seen, basically, and heard of. So we can only put this, make this effort together with everybody, and you're playing a very significant role. And I think by having, the winning teams, or even having the event before where we really see what's going on, all the solutions that are out there, what's happening, and then get these presentations, I think that's just highly educational for everybody in the market to know also what's possible. So the evening before, as Matt already mentioned, there will be the presentation for the finalists, and then we'll choose the finalists, and that will be followed by welcome drinks. And for the welcome drinks too, basically all the delegates of the conference are invited. So at least all the winners, and basically you're all winners because you come up with all this fantastic technology, but everybody attending the challenge at least can also meet, all these different stakeholders that are there. So what can we do for you with the event? Well, I already mentioned one of them is obviously a lot of the networking. You will meet all these stakeholders during the two-day conference. But, it's a great opportunity because these passes are also, not cheap, especially not when you're a student. They're $1,500 each. So, having that access to the event to really see what's happening in the space and get the learning and also the networking. Hopefully, your future company might be there that you're going to work for, or organization, is a huge benefit, besides having been able to present your winning solution. And also, you will see what other technologies are there, what progress are we making in the space, and it will give you a direct input, basically, or insight in and a finger in getting to know the whole society that works in the removal space.
And I do want to mention that, so the final showcase is going to be that opening night of Carbon Unbound, which is, I think, a very exciting opportunity for teams. But also, if there are people watching who are interested in sponsoring the Carbon Removal Challenge, you will get a booth at that event as well. So you'll be able to advertise not only to our participants, but also to the attendees of the Carbon Unbound opening night reception. Thank you.
Good point.
I thought so. Okay, so with that, we are coming up on our Q&A section now. So if people have questions,
yes,
please post them in the Q&A.
And just because we at the end,
Sure.
right, there was a few links. Are we gonna put them in the chat
Duncan
box
has
too?
been putting the
Great.
chat for us, so,
Okay.
so we're good on that.
Perfect.
So let's check out so I see that there's some questions that have been answered already in the Q&A, but if people have additional questions, we are happy to answer them. Maybe I will respond to some of these in case people could not see the answers. Let's see. And Duncan is posting more links into the so there was a question in the chat about what's the level of readiness of the proposals to the challenge. we are looking for students who have good ideas. So, these can be very early stage things. I know that a lot of the focus, part of the reason we're doing this challenge is because a lot of the focus in the carbon removal space is on very robust things that have already received funding, things that have already removed X number of tons of carbon. We're looking to open the big end of the funnel. We're looking to get as many students as possible, as many young people as possible interested in carbon removal. So don't feel like you have to have something that is some sort of advanced proven technology. We are open to sort of early, wild, crazy ideas that hopefully have a lot of promise. We are seeking, so the question, I'm going to answer this live. We are seeking additional judges and mentors. So if you're interested in becoming a judge or a mentor, there's a form on our website where you can fill out your interest in becoming a judge or mentor. And then we will give you a link to a form to help you fill out, let us understand what your background is and how well you fit into our judging process. The time commitment depends a little bit on how many submissions we get. We're hoping to have each judge look at between 5 and 10 submissions in a 2-week period, but it depends on how many judges we get and how many submissions we get, what the actual demand on is. But we expect it to not be too heavy a lift. For somewhere between 10 and 20 hours over a 2-week span for the judges. So if you're interested in judging, please let us know, and we would love to have you involved. I see that there is some other questions. Yeah, you do need to be a current student to participate. Our deadline is when you submit, you have to be a student. So when you submit your application of interest, you have to be a student. So if you graduate, let's say you're graduating later in December, but you submit your application right now, then you can still be part of the challenge. But you have to be a student at the time of your submission. You don't have to be a student at the time of your proposal. But in order to enter the challenge, I just met somebody at COP28 who was like, well, I'm graduating in 2 weeks. I was like, well, if you get if you apply now, you were a student when you applied, unless you qualify. Yeah, I see something about a patent pending process. Yeah, you don't have to open source this if that's not your path. We are encouraging people to open source things, but if you have something that your university or your team has decided that you want to patent it, that's fine. You don't have to share anything proprietary that you don't want to, but you have to give enough so that our judges understand that this thing works and enough that they understand how it works, that they can appropriately judge it. But you don't have to open source it. That is an encouragement, but not a requirement, because we know a lot of academic institutions, a lot of teams are not necessarily going to be interested in doing that open source approach. Other questions in the chat right now? Don't see any more. Oh, wait, there's something in the chat. Okay, that's about it. Thank you, Rupert, for linking to.
Thanks, Rupert.
Yeah, good to see you, Rupert. Thank you for joining us. Any other questions from any potential teams, sponsors, mentors, judges? What else can people do? If people just OpenAir is I could say a little bit about OpenAir for those of you who might not be familiar. We are a volunteer collective, so we have no paid staff, we have no set offices. We basically all do this because we believe that carbon removal is important and that climate change is real and needs to be addressed with the solution. The solution needs to accelerate the same way that solar did. We were really inspired for the carbon removal challenge by the solar car races that started in the early 90s and all these solar vehicle competitions, various different, and we really feel like an undertold part of the story of that exponential growth that has happened in the solar industry is how much it opened up to young people, how much it opened up to college students, high school students. We're looking to do that same sort of thing when it comes to carbon removal. And we think that, there's a lot of talk in the UN IPCC report about how we need to get to gigaton level scale for carbon removal by mid-century. I'm going to be pretty old. You're still be young.
I'm going to be older,
but I'll be old. But the people who are going to be the CEOs, the leaders of the carbon removal industry, those are the people who are in college now, right? Those people are going to be in like 40s and 50s when we reach mid-century. Those are going to be the ones who are really driving this industry forward. So we want to get those people excited about this industry now, get them into it now, and really start supplying that workforce of tomorrow to really push carbon removal forward. So hopefully some of those people are on this webinar right now and learning about the carbon removal challenge today, and we can get them moving in that direction right now. I see.
Then I was also thinking, just to add, since we're both here at COP.
Sure.
So there's obviously some certain results that have been at COP, but one thing I wanted to just mention as well, the nice thing that finally, for the first time, they've actually included carbon removal at a COP. So there was renewable energy, but now there's actually a pavilion. So it really is being brought to the attention. That's obviously very exciting.
Yeah, this is an exciting time for carbon removal. It really is sort of like, this is the elevators on the ground floor, and it's a good time to get on before it gets too high to jump on. I don't know if this analogy is working, but you get the idea. Now's a good, the door is open for carbon removal, and it's a good time to join up and become part of it. So yeah, if you have additional questions, thoughts, concerns, feel free to email me. Feel free to enter that form on our website. But ideally, if you're a team and you want to be part of this competition, fill that form, register for the challenge now, because potentially we will have to cut it off at a certain point if we get too many teams. So the earlier you get in, the more likely you are to actually be part of this year's challenge.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think if we get to 50 teams, then we start thinking about, do we have enough judges to do all these teams? So we're not quite there yet, but we're not all the way there. Hey, Duncan.
I'm anticipating a question from potential participants. So if chosen as a finalist, what kind of gear and demos can they bring to support the presentation of their idea? And in last year's challenge, what form did that take? Is it just a PowerPoint presentation or any hardware?
Some teams, just brought PowerPoint. Some teams actually brought a device with them. Some teams sort of, thank you for the question, Duncan. Some teams, we tried to cater it to the finalists, what their needs were and what their ability was. You know, some things it was too difficult for them to ship within the time frame we had. We actually changed our timeline a little bit this year, so there's more time between selecting finalists and the final showcase. So we're hoping that will help people get more things to the challenge if they want to the final showcase. But we're going to help, and it really is on a sort of different teams have different needs, so we have to really focus on the different needs of individual teams. So I see a couple other questions in the chat have popped up. You're a student, so this is from an anonymous attendee. Your student and your team is a small startup who are not students. Are you eligible? So the student members of the team are eligible. The non-student members of the team are not eligible. So it's okay if you're working with people who are not students, but they can't be part of the sort of official submission to the challenge. So lots of students, for example, are working with faculty who are working on something. The faculty would not be part of the team that submits to the challenge, but the student members of that team could be part of the challenge. So I hope that answers your question. And can we speak more about what is emerging at COP28? General COP28 question. Yeah. You got a good response to this one, Chantal?
I have I got a few things probably. Well, I think first of all, which was something on day one, is that there's the loss and damage fund. So this is really where the richer countries are going to support, obviously, the countries that have really suffered more of climate change. I believe there's just over 700 million, maybe already more in that fund. And then obviously the big thing is that there's just a lot of attention, like how are we doing? How are countries doing sticking to the 1.5% that they've basically, or degree, sorry, 1.5 degree that they have committed to. And that's not a really positive reply, unfortunately, at this stage. But I think that's also why the COP is in a way important. So people keep, all the countries, everybody stays. Yeah, exactly.
And the more that part goes poorly, the more we need carbon removal. So it just makes it that much more necessary. And, obviously there's been a lot of attention on, the COP president's comments on whether or not the science proves that we need to burn fewer fossil fuels. Obviously that is a very controversial statement that has been the talk of the conference, I would say, and a lot of debate about whether or not you can have an effective COP in a country that is so reliant on oil production,
Yeah.
and whether or not that, there's actually the other big topic of the COP is where the next COP's going to be, because it's almost always, by the time you're at, at COP27, we knew where COP28 was going to be.
Yeah, it's always that-
COP26,
yeah.
we knew where COP27 was going to be. We're at COP28, we don't know where COP29 is going to be, partially because it's supposed to be in Eastern Europe, and there are some political issues around that, because Russia is upset with lots of Eastern Europe because they feel like they are supporting Ukraine in their war with them, and thus they've been vetoing lots of possible locations in Eastern Europe for COP29. So I think I've had more conversations about where do you think COP29 is going to be than anything else, which is not ideal when you're supposed to be talking about stuff about climate.
Exactly. But there's at least one other good point. So stick away also from the fossil fuel, which obviously was in negative daylight, that there is actually a commitment made that we're going to triple the renewable energy capacity. So that's also something that there's been more commitment to. So renewable energy has to really increase. So that's again another positive note.
Yeah, I see another question from David, which is more of a general COP question. Are we seeing any promising offers from oil and gas industry that could materially support CDR and durable storage? I think those have been pretty constant, honestly. I think that's honestly in some ways a problem for carbon removal, the level of support it gets from oil and gas. And it kind of confuses the issue a little bit, I think, sometimes, that people feel like it is they think it's greenwash. This is a constant problem in carbon removal, is people think it's greenwashing, or they think it's not something that is necessary, and that it's something that's only exists so that oil and gas can keep doing business as usual. Obviously, we at OpenAir do not believe that, and we think that, and the science doesn't support that. The UN doesn't support that. That we need carbon removal, even if we stopped burning all fossil fuels today, which ain't happening. But even if that happened, we'd still need to do carbon removal because things are going to continue to heat up with just the number of emissions that we put into the air now. So we very much view carbon removal as a necessary technology to clean up the mess that we've been making since the Industrial Revolution, not as a license to keep making more of a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we've answered all the questions in chat. I'll give we'll do quick outros. If anyone asks another question while we're doing our outros, we will do our best to answer them. But Chantal, do you have any closing comments you want to give?
No, just sign up for the challenge. I think, the more the merrier, basically. It's a great opportunity, I think. And also we need all your, we need you to put your mind to it. You all have very smart minds. So put it on paper, submit your challenge, because
that's number one.
The world needs you. The world needs you.
Number one, let's get as many students as possible in this challenge from as many places as possible. We need to have ideas coming from everywhere, every background, every nationality, every geography. We need them coming in. But also, if you're not a student and you're on this webinar and you're interested, come to Carbon Unbound. It's a great event. It's a really way to meet sort of the leaders in the industry. And I think it's something that can really change the course of a company's destiny or a person's career. So hopefully we will see you at Carbon Unbound, or we will see you before we depart. I do want to share that we have an event coming up next week. We have another webinar, which is a info session / webinar with Peter Reinhardt, who is the CEO of Charm Industrial, one of the leading carbon removal companies in the world right now. So please join us for that. He's going to be talking about sort of his personal journey to how he got to where he was, which is something we think could be really helpful to people who are looking to get into the carbon removal industry, but especially since we are a student challenge, to the students in the challenge, sort of help them understand sort of what a potential role model for them, how his path was to becoming a leader in the carbon removal industry. So please join us for that. I think Duncan is going to put the link to that in the chat, and we'll have it on our website shortly as well. So please sign up for that challenge as well. And I see we got one more question. You're reading the FAQs. It says the team must include at least 2 members who are students. I think I heard earlier that you said it can only be 1 person. Is that right? Yeah, it can be 1 person. I'm sorry. don't know why it says that on the FAQ. I'll fix it. A team can be a single person if necessary. We don't necessarily encourage that. We think teams are better when they have more than one viewpoint. But if you have a single person, that's acceptable as well. We would encourage you, if you're a single person, to try and find somebody to collaborate with on this. But if it is a team of one, that is also acceptable. And on that note, that is it for today.
Okay.
Say goodbye,
Thank you,
Chantal.
Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for
and
joining us.
hope to see you all in New York.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.